Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to the February 7th, February 7th. That's funny. It is February 7th. I don't even know what day it is. February 7th, Planning Commission meeting. I'll call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Chairman Wyckoff,
Present.
Commissioner Kerr,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks. Here. Commissioner Connolly,
Here.
Commissioner Marr,
Here.
Commissioner Noble, Commissioner Latzo.
Okay. Well, we do have enough to continue with our meeting.
We do.
I will.
Sorry.
Sorry.
And before we continue, I just wanted to make a mention that under new business, item B, the text change should read 2022-02. That was something that we missed. And apparently we all had a little case of the Fridays because you're going to hear that more than one time tonight. So, but it should be 2022-02 and item B.
Oh, I
there,
see. Okay.
New business. Okay.
Yeah, we got it right in one spot and missed it in another one.
Yeah.
Missed it two other ones. Okay, thank you for that correction.
Welcome.
Okay, at this point, if anyone from the massive attendance of the public would like to speak, this would be your chance. If you have anything to bring forward, please state your name and address for the record. If you're going to be commenting on an agenda item, please save it for when that agenda item comes up. If we have any public comment, please step forward. Thank you, sir.
Chuck Dillon, 529 Lillian Drive. As I'm going around meeting different residents and stuff, I was asked to bring up a comment as to whether or not, excuse me, their comment last month in the meeting was not represented correctly. So I don't know whether or not that really matters that much, but that person was like wanting to get it corrected in the minutes before the meeting. The minutes are approved for next month. And I have no idea how that would go about being done, but you know, it was just brought to my attention and I thought I was going to this meeting, so I thought I'd bring it forward at this time. Thank you.
I guess, is it appropriate to make a correction to minutes at this point? Do we know which comment it may have been?
I can, yeah, I mean, I've got it here.
I read through the minutes and didn't see any errors that stood out to me. Did anyone else catch an error? We would not have been. Yeah, we were on the 10th. That was the commission meeting, which was the following night,
I
right?
think that was on the 12th. So correct. So I don't know which one it was. Can you go back over there and speak into the thing and then tell us what the comment was and we'll try to figure out if it was us or them?
Well, it was about the resident said about the height was objectionable,
Oh, yeah, that was here.
which, okay, and she said she didn't want to go, but to get that corrected, and as to how exactly it was done, I'm not sure. It's just, you know, I got this on a text.
Okay, if you, the minutes on page 3, it's about the third or fourth paragraph down. It says another resident said that the height is objectionable. She does not think that the staff is learning from past mistakes, pointing out the Barefoot Beach Club and all of Gulf Boulevard in front of it was in a shadow at 5 p.m. She said this property will create a cavern on Gulf Boulevard. Is that the
Okay.
one?
Yes.
I'm not sure what.
Well, let's see. Okay, I guess it was, as I'm looking here, it says I'm quoted as saying there's a shadow across Gulf Boulevard by the Barefoot Beach Resort at 5 o'clock. What I said was 1 p.m. Actually, it was 12:51.
Oh.
Okay. All right, I guess we can correct.
I can
Just
certainly-
passing that along.
No, I appreciate that. That's fine. It's important for us to be accurate.
Yeah.
I'm sure it makes a huge difference, but accuracy is important. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. So I guess in the interest of accuracy, we should. Oh, you're beeping me. That's not fair. We should probably make the change to the minutes to reflect that it's not a 5 o'clock shadow. It's a 1 o'clock shadow. At approximately 1 p.m. Okay, so thank you for that. So in that case, seeing nobody else anybody else have any public comment, since we're still actually in that department? Okay, seeing none, the public comment will be closed. Would entertain a motion to approve the minutes with that one correction from 5 PM to approximately 1 PM.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with correction.
Thank you. Second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
That was Commissioner Kerr who seconded, right? Thank you.
I'll
Your
sec-
turn.
yes.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Marr,
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly,
Yes.
and Chairman Wyckoff.
Yes,
Thank you.
minutes are approved. Thank you very much. On to item 5 on the agenda, new business. Item A, TCH 2022-01, open fences. City, please.
Alright. I would like to point out on page 11, well, page 10 and 11, there's a typo, the same type of typo. It should read TCH 2022-01,
Right.
not 2021. So the code only allows for horizontal and vertical members of fences to be 1 1/2 inches wide. Fence contractors raise the issue of structural integrity of the fence due to the restrictions of the width of the top and bottom rails. After discussions with multiple fence contractors, staff understands that 1 1/2 inches of width for top and bottom rails is not wide enough to create a sturdy, long-lasting open fence. Further, top rails, 1 1/2 inches in width, are too narrow to accommodate a handrail. So staff recommends providing a wider horizontal member width to accommodate the handrails and for safety purposes. The code also allows for picket fences. You can see this on page 11. If you see section 110-446, subsection 4, that last sentence, permitted open fences includes chain link and picket fences. But the code, the dimensional requirements of an open fence restricts the vertical components of an open fence to only 1 1/2 inches in width. The standard dimensions of a picket fence are about 3 1/2 inches in width. Wide pickets with a 3 to 3 1/2 inch spacing between the pickets. The code lists picket fences as an allowable fence type without providing adequate dimensions to construct a picket fence. So staff recommends amending the open fence dimensions to accommodate standard picket fence dimensions. Also, the code does not have a standard for post dimensions or definition, so that was also included. So staff recommends approval of the amendments, and with one change, if you look at page 11, just to make post after picket in the definition, so it's alphabetical order. That staff recommends the approval with that one change.
Okay, so on page 11, we're just realigning, bringing
Correct.
post up under picket, so it remains in alphabetical order.
Yes.
And then we're correcting the title to 2022 to correct the typo of 2021-01, correct?
Correct.
And then we're also making the correction on page
10.
10 for the attachment to reference that same attachment. Okay,
Yes.
very good. So technically, we're looking at all of our current picket fences are not conforming.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right. Do we have any public comment on this matter? Okay, looks like we're really clear on that one. Anyone from the, any discussion from any members of the planning commission? Quiet group tonight. I like it. Okay. Anyone like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to adopt the changes to TCH 2022-01 open fences.
For clarification, as amended by, right?
As amended.
Yep, okay, just make sure. To
I'll
add the
second
changes.
that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion on the motion, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, we can call the roll.
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Mar,
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly,
Yes.
Chairman Wyckoff.
Yes.
5-0.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item of new business, TCH 2022-02, setbacks in commercial districts. City, please.
And I have a presentation that goes along with this.
Okay. I
Um,
was hoping for that.
Good. So the current setback requirements create many non-conforming structures and discourages pedestrian-friendly environments within the commercial districts of the city. The commercially zoned areas in the city has setbacks which often create legally non-conforming structures and discourages the pedestrian-friendly development. Legally non-conforming structures are those buildings constructed before the code was adopted. So we'll go through each zoning district, commercially zoned district, and talk about what's there and the amendments we proposed. So the first district is C1. You can see, let's see if you can see this. Right here, this pink area, this is Johns Pass Village, but not the boardwalk. So this district is the core of Johns Pass Village. Many of these buildings create a main street quality with a focus on pedestrian activity. Most main streets have no setbacks along the front and side yards to encourage pedestrian activity and a unique character. Many existing buildings within Johns Pass Village were built with shared walls or party walls and limited to no side setbacks. You can see the buildings east of Village Boulevard. So staff proposes reducing the rear yard setback from 25 feet to 20 feet. This reduction provides enough space for an 18-foot parking stall, which is consistent in the parking standards in section 110-973. And staff proposes eliminating the side yard setbacks to create a more pedestrian-friendly Main Street quality. The current setbacks could create dark, narrow areas between multi-story commercial buildings that could be a safety concern and reduce the pedestrian-friendly nature of this district. So on to C2. You can see right here, this kind of hot pink color. So this district includes the waterfront businesses along Boardwalk Place within Johns Pass Village. So reducing the front yard setback, or the front yard in this district is actually along the street, not along the water. So just keep that in mind. So this would be to reduce the front yard setback to allow enough space for an 18-foot parking stall, similar to the C1, and requiring a 5-foot setback on only one side to be consistent with existing side yard setbacks and provide a relatively continuous frontage along the pedestrian-friendly boardwalk. So you can see there's a lot of buildings that already have 5 foot between the buildings. There's some that have 10 feet. On to C3. So C3 is on the east side of Gulf Boulevard. All this red, let's see right here. That's a C3 district. So this district encompasses most properties along the east side of Gulf Boulevard. This area has both high vehicle and pedestrian activity. Primary uses in this district are retail, commercial, multifamily, and temporary lodging. Reducing the front yard setback provides for a more pedestrian-friendly atmosphere along Gulf Boulevard while providing adequate space between buildings and sidewalks in the right-of-way for landscaping and signage. For lots wider than 80 feet, multifamily and tourist dwellings are required currently to use 33% of the property width for side yard setbacks. And that's in section 110-321. The staff recommends reducing the side yard setbacks to 10 feet for multifamily and tourist dwellings, with no changes proposed to the additional 5 feet required when abutting residential uses. Here's just a screenshot of some places in the C3 area. And a visual of a 15-foot setback. So this is what's proposed. Versus that 25-foot setback, which this is what the code currently has, that 25-foot setback. All right, and the last district that we'll be talking about is the C4. There's only a few places in Madeira Beach that have the C4 zoning district. It's right here. It's like a dark maroon. It's kind of hard to tell. And also over here and this piece of property as well. This is a C4 marine commercial. So this district includes the areas that I just pointed out. The proposed changes to the side setbacks in the C4 are very identical to the C3 from above, except for the addition of the 5 feet of landscaping abutting residential uses. So staff recommends approval of TCH 2022-02 with staff recommended amendments. Also, there are 2 typos, very similar to the last one. On page 15, the attachments should be TCH 2022-02, and page 16 should be TCH 2022-02.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Do we have any public comment at this time?
Good evening. I'm Jack Boziak. I'm an architect here in town. I've dealt with most of you in passing one way or another over the past since 1968, I guess, which I hate to admit. But I mainly want to talk about on the C3 with the general areas. Originally, when some of these 30% setbacks were put in place, the whole concept was that you gave a larger setback for height and also to allow height, but also that it was primarily the intent to try and improve vistas occasionally or relief on the waterfront properties. Over the years, it's been kind of moved around a bit, and nowadays the 30% on residential properties really is intrusive. And what it does is it creates issues where you have to squeeze the buildings in order to try and make them work. You start having to worry about squeezing driveways and squeezing that. Now, I believe that the intent of it, if it was intended and if it was considered on, like if you exceeded 40 feet above BFE or DFE, I could see requesting some additional setbacks or above 50 feet, whatever, if it was a mid-rise building. But to give you an example, we're doing townhouses, which are relatively low density, and they are low profile. They're 3 stories over parking. That was with a roof deck, excuse me. And the problem is when you impose the 30-foot setback on it, you just can't fit them on the property. We're looking now at ways as an alternative, if we had to actually do a single lane of traffic through the property opposed to a 24-foot wide driveway. And it just doesn't work. The intent, I do understand the intent when it was put in place on the waterfront parcels, and the whole idea of trading off setback for height is a great idea on the waterfront parcels. But I think when you just blanket apply it to all these properties, I think that it basically works against the development of more desirable units. You start seeing people design tricky things to try and make it work. And that's what we were kind of faced with on this one project we're working on, that we've kind of held up in hopes that this modification will be made to the code so that we get to an acceptable basis. Because, for example, the other thing was this setback doesn't take into effect the space between the buildings. Now, there, if you take into effect the space between the buildings, we have 10 feet, 40 feet, 24, about almost 50 feet, then the next building 40, and then 10 on the side setback that we're trying to get. So I think that if you realize that it encourages us to be able, as architects and developers, whoops, am I done? That's it? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I'd appreciate, am I okay for a minute?
Yeah, I'll give it a couple seconds.
Okay, I just would encourage you
Not a
to
big
kind of, it'll encourage better development. If you are going to tie big side setbacks to non-waterfront properties, you might relate it to height. When somebody does a mid-rise, I understand you might want to put some kind of a compromise in for a little more side setback. But when it's just residential construction, I'd appreciate it if you keep in mind that the non-waterfront parcels are really adversely affected by it, and it doesn't help. So I would appreciate your consideration of that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Chuck Dillon, 529 Lillian Drive. If you look at these, I mean, the one is going from 10 feet to 0. And then I don't know how decreasing a setback in the front is going to make it more friendly. I mean, you're decreasing 5 feet. So how is it making it more pedestrian friendly when you have less space? And a good example is 150th. You know, they wanted to go higher, but they couldn't. So they made it short and fat and squatty. And by decreasing these setbacks, I think we're going way backwards. And I don't know how this got up in front of you. I mean, you know, I hear about a lot of issues, but like, I don't know how things can get put in front of planning commissions. I hear a lot about people having problems, but it doesn't come to your attention. And then think about last month, that poor guy that was trying to put a fence in. Well, okay, so now if these were there, he'd have a fence at the very edge of the property if he got his C1. And just think about those things. And once again, like I say, it's all along Gulf Boulevard. So it's not just John's Pass. We're everything up and down there. And I'm sorry, he does do a lot of nice designs, but everybody's made it fine with the setbacks that they are now. I don't think there's any reason necessarily to change them, and especially make more space. If it's a small property, it's a small property. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay,
I would like to add a clarification.
Okay.
The setbacks don't affect where you can place a fence. You can place a fence on the edge of your property.
right, this is for us, structure.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that that would not affect
Yeah, I didn't know
the
what
situation
protocol
we
we
saw
should-
last month.
Appreciate the clarification. Thank you. And okay, anyway, we can deal with it in discussion. Anyone else have anything? Okay, public comments will be closed then on this topic. So to my fellow planning commission members, anyone have anything to comment before we go forward?
Yes.
Please.
Can we go through each of these individually? Just for a few minutes. The C1, as far as the way I'm understanding it, is basically what we have there in John's Pass. Pretty much.
Correct.
Can you bring up the C1
Yeah.
slide?
Oh, this
Please.
is, so this is where C1 is, right here, this pink. And then I have an example, oops, right here.
Yeah, we can kind of just work through
C1.
your presentation there in a little bit. Yeah, so all those properties that are highlighted, they're basically sharing walls, like you said. So it's just
Correct.
bringing them into,
So if
Couldn't-
they were destroyed, they could build something more Main Street friendly. Like this is kind of like a Main Street quality where you share a wall and you have very limited setbacks. Like there's no setback in the front and you share walls. As you can see here, so these white lines, I grabbed this from the property appraiser.
right,
So this is like where the property lines are. So you can see in the back, this one looks like it's right on the property line. This is about 15 feet. This is about 20. So currently the rear is 25. Nothing around here has 25. So just trying to make it a little bit more consistent. So you could put a parking spot in the back, which is like 18 feet. And then with the side, currently they're built right next to each other.
so the 20 feet setback is really standard for a parking space.
Yes. And
Can you
that's why
click
we
back
went
one
with
slide to the overview to show exactly where the
Sure.
C1?
Right here.
Thanks. So it only affects the Johns Pass Village core, if you will, right?
Correct, right here.
Yep. And the buildings, it's not the buildings on the boardwalk.
Correct.
It would be the buildings on
All that light pink.
on Village Lane there, on Village Boulevard and on, yeah, that street.
Right.
I'll never forget. Boardwalk Place, thank you. I've only lived here since I was 12 years old. I can't remember what the street name is. So, okay. I think that lends a little clarity to it, and we have a lot of buildings already there that are already done like this.
Yes.
So it's almost like we're trying to backfit
Exactly.
some things into place.
That all makes sense.
That's for C1.
To me, anyway.
And are we considering the setback? So the rear yard is the only thing we're changing. We're not changing the front anything on C1, only the rear.
Correct.
So this
The-
really is only gonna,
The rear and the side.
is really like, well, the rear part's only gonna affect the ones on Village, that go back to Pelican Lane, right? There's not,
Pelican's in R3, so we're not looking at the R3.
but I mean,
Oh, Pelican's right here.
yeah, so
Yes.
Pelican Lane's on the backside of the village, right? So the
Yeah.
the properties that, like Bronze Lady, where it fronts Village Boulevard, their rear access is on Pelican Lane. So this would affect those buildings. Okay. Perfect. Okay, thank you. You want to go to C2?
Yeah, unless anyone had any comment on C1. So we can go to C2.
The C2 is right here, which is just boardwalk along the water.
Right, it's not the boardwalk, it's any shops that are not on the boardwalk, but are, is that correct?
It's like right against the boardwalk. You can see in here. I think this is the whole district, that C2.
Okay. My question there is, why would you have, I mean, you have side yard there now. What does that serve?
These side yards.
Yeah, I mean.
I think it allows for
I
a
see you're going to
party-
reduce it.
It allows
but-
for a party wall on one side
Yes.
because it has, the current is 5 feet on both sides,
Right,
and it'll allow for a party wall on one side.
If they wanted to have a party wall, or like take this property, for example, they would have to have currently 5 feet here. This property would have 5 feet, so you have these 10 feet setbacks. All of these buildings over here are around 5 feet or less, it looked like. So it would allow for something more consistent with over here, where you have 5 feet on one side, this could be 5 feet over here, or you could do the 5 feet on this side. So you'd have 5 or 10 feet or a party wall between the buildings. It's just a little bit more consistent with what is the majority of the buildings over here.
right. I'm understanding that. I'm just trying to figure out what the use is for that in a commercial district. Is that just to gain access from the front to the back?
I believe there's some equipment between these buildings, and then there's a few areas of like where you can walk up
Yeah,
to get on the boardwalk.
okay. And there's no requirement really to have it any more than that?
No.
So the way it is currently, you would technically have 10
10
feet
feet
between each building, and now it can be reduced
I
to
mean,
5.
I'm fine with
Yeah.
that. I'm just
Yeah.
opening it up.
Okay, anybody else got something for
There's
C2?
nothing as far as safety or fire that you have to be concerned with.
That's, I'm assuming that was part of the city's vetting process to going through these proposed changes, correct?
Has that been reviewed?
We can double check with fire. We haven't brought up the boardwalk place with the setbacks, with the side yard setbacks.
Okay, yeah, that would be good. Could we table a vote based on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that might be
That's-
something to consider because, if you've only got 5 feet between, if you were to have an emergency and get emergency
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what,
personnel or stretchers or anything through there that,
right, the 10 feet was put into the code for a reason. I'm just trying to understand what that reason is. Is it to put an air conditioner on the side of the building, or is it because of fire safety? I don't know. Somebody smarter than me figured that out.
yeah, it does seem like you could side load a building to create a very narrow alleyway, right, between, to a non-party wall. I mean, I get the concept of the party wall situation, especially in an area that's all the retail, like the boardwalk, where makes perfect sense to have common walls, right? But if you're going to have an opening, you can't have a solid building that's 400, 500, 600 feet long, because that would impede access in the
And
event of
only
emergency.
have access to it from one side.
Right,
Where on the C1, you'd have access from both sides.
right. Yeah, I wonder if we probably should look into that one a little bit deeper before we plow through that. Appreciate that. Okay, so, given that, we'll keep moving through before we decide.
Right, let's
let's
think
there may be some
think about
other,
all these.
there
and-
may be some other things we need to have considered as well. So, anybody else got a concern on C2? Anything you guys want to add or?
No.
Okay. Unless we're missing something,
No, I think that's a good point. And I think that we should check with fire department
okay,
and just any comments that y'all have.
sure,
We will do further research. If you
sure.
want to
Okay.
table the
Perfect,
item,
perfect,
that's
perfect.
fine, and we'll bring it back.
Okay,
and then there's-
C3?
yeah.
But do you have more for C2?
No, C3, please.
All right, so on C3, this affects a wider swath of,
Yes, you can see here, it's
it's all the red
almost all of the properties.
on the east side
on
of
the
Gulf
east
Boulevard,
side.
right?
Then I just grabbed a random screenshot of 2 separate places. So there's a variety of setbacks along C3.
Mhm.
And if you start looking, you'll see everything. There's actually quite a lot of properties that have 0 or like
Mhm.
0 to 5 feet.
Yeah.
It's kind of all over the place, to be
Yeah, I think the
honest.
more modern development style for a corridor like this is to have things closer to the street, right? To create a Main
Correct.
Street effect. So I get that, and we're trying to eliminate, I think for safety purposes too, the pulling in and having parking spaces where you have a giant curb cut and people backing out
Exactly. We're
on,
trying to eliminate
pulling
all
in
of
and
that.
backing out onto a busy roadway. So we're trying to do something to keep that from happening, right? You're not gonna have parking spaces in
And
the front.
bringing the properties up slightly, you can
Mhm.
have more pedestrian friendly
Right, more inviting.
access and not
Mhm.
have the pull-in parking.
Okay.
Um,
So I'm sorry, I'm kind of just rambling through here, but on the front yard, I see where that's headed and don't have a terrible concern with that. The side yard stays the same. So then the side yard on commercial stays the same. Side yard on multifamily and tourist dwelling, minimum of 10 feet up to 33% of the lot width, which is what Mr. Bodiak addressed, and proposing to change it to 10 feet. I think that's probably the one that's of concern to most people if there is going to be one. So
I would also like to point out on page 18, the
Mhm.
special requirements. You see B, section 110-326B.
right,
It's just saying that no structure can be wider than 150 feet parallel to the front yard. And then the setback between those two buildings. That's a minimum of 10 feet separation between the structures or equivalent of 50% of the height of the tallest building on the same parcel, whichever is more restrictive. Those are setbacks between if there's multiple structures.
okay, so if we're building, and that's from flood height, right? Are we calculating, not from
So
terra firma?
all of the height is based on the design flood, which is base flood elevation plus the 4 feet
Okay.
of freeboard.
Because if we're doing townhouses, for example, that are going to end up being 35 feet, so you would have to have 17 and a half feet between each building based on this,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Because that would be the more restrictive, 17 and a half feet versus 10 feet.
correct.
Am I interpreting that correctly? Okay. Okay. Anybody else got anything?
I'm just trying to absorb it a bit.
Also, if you see on that same page 18, the special requirement C, it's when a proposed use is next to a residential use, you have an additional 5 feet of setback.
Okay.
So keep that in mind as well. So if you have something next to the residential use, like say if there's a single family home or duplex, you have to have 5 feet of
Additional.
landscape screening.
So can I, is this being brought up as a response to trying to have newer developments fit better on a particular lot? Is I can see where if somebody has a contiguous, I mean, if you have like 4 lots on Gulf Boulevard that you're able to assemble, for example, now you've got 120 feet or you got 160 feet wide, 33% of that, so you're losing a lot of your buildable
Yes, you
space.
are.
Is that really where the concern is coming from?
That's one of the main concerns. I wouldn't say there's one lot in particular. This happens a lot. A lot of people will come in and talk to Linda or myself or Dana about, oh, what can we develop on this lot in C3? Now, so many people turn around because of this
The car wash, yeah.
33%. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
one of the lots. It affects a lot of properties.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems a little, the 33% seems restrictive, but anyway, that's up for everyone to decide. Okay, anybody else got anything on C3 you
I
want?
just want to be able to make
Talk
sure I
about-
understand it. So you're saying by the section B there, that the longest building can be 150 feet long? Is that correct?
Yes, wider than 150 feet parallel to the front yard.
Okay,
So anything parallel to Gulf Boulevard can't be wider than 150 feet.
right. But that's not being changed. That's not,
Correct,
that's
that's not
being,
being changed. I just
okay.
wanted to have that in there.
Right, it's one
just
of the
so you
current
can-
restrictions and it's
Exactly.
gonna remain.
So it's not just the setback. There are other special requirements.
Right, understood. And then if it is abutting a residential used property, then there's an additional
Additional
5-foot
5
setback
feet.
requirement on the side yard.
right. So you have 2 buildings next to each other. Each of them would have, not on the same property. You'd have 10 and 10, you'd have 20 feet between them.
Correct.
Right,
That's what's being proposed versus a minimum based on height,
based on
the-
frontage,
based on
Exactly.
frontage.
right?
Okay.
Because the way it's written now is it's 33% of the frontage,
Of the entire
the
property?
entire property.
Yeah. See, that is pretty restrictive myself.
Mhm. It's for lots greater than 80 feet in width is
Right.
that's where the 33% starts kicking in.
Right, so most of your Gulf Boulevard frontage lots are 40 feet wide. So once you get over 2 lots wide, so now you're gonna be at a 120-foot lot, you've got to have 40 feet of setbacks.
Yes, which we actually have
Yeah.
quite a lot of lots that are I mean, a majority of the city along Gulf Boulevard
Would
is
be
in that
non-conforming now,
C3.
correct?
Oh, so many are.
Yeah,
It's currently triggered at 80 feet in width. And if you.
That's 2 lots.
For 2 lots, yeah, if you had an 80-foot wide piece of property currently in the C3, you would trigger currently in the code, the 33% setback, which would mean that you only had 54 feet to create buildings and driveways between buildings if you were trying to build multiple buildings.
Mhm.
right. So
Yeah.
you, basically, your same example, you'd be able to have a 60-foot building with 2 10-foot setbacks on either side.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems reasonable, what you're proposing.
Yeah. Okay, any more for C3?
And then
Sure.
on, just to make sure I understand, the 15 feet on the front, that's from the sidewalk to the front of the building. That's not from the street. That's from the sidewalk to the front of
So
the
it's from
building.
the property line. If you look at the Pinellas County property appraisers, most property lines begin at the edge of the, you can see right here,
The edges
the
of the
edge of
sidewalk.
The edge of the
the
sidewalk, right.
sidewalk. Some of them are actually begin 2 feet, 2 or 3 feet back. Most of it is at the sidewalk though.
And typically the sidewalk's a minimum of 5 feet.
It's like, I think it's 5 or 6 feet, the
Right.
sidewalk along Gulf.
So
You add an extra
roughly, we're 20
6
feet from the street regardless.
Correct.
Okay. I don't have any more comments on that.
Perfect. Anyone else? Ms. Connolly, anything? Good? We good? Good, good.
Okay.
All right, anything in C4 of concern?
The C4, the changes are very similar to the changes in C3. And then adding in.
Actually, another 5 feet, yeah.
Adding in the additional 5 feet between commercial and residential.
Okay.
So to reflect more of what C3 is.
Okay, good. So to my planning commission members, are you wanting to table this so that we can further gather information about the C2 proposed changes to this 5-foot side setback on only one side to accommodate emergency access?
Do you think it's wise to table it or make a motion to accept it based on their approval or whatever?
Or
can
you
do it either way.
You could do an approval without that section and we can always come back and revisit it.
So we can eliminate the C2 changes and move
Yeah.
forward with the others.
Yeah, you could do
That's
that.
an option. I'm open to whatever motion comes before.
All right. Want to make a motion, Anne Marie?
I'll make a motion to approve the changes based on staff recommendation for the setbacks, eliminating C2 and tabling that for our next meeting to get clarification on emergency services.
Everyone okay with that motion? I have a second? Second. All right. Mr. Mayor, second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion before we take the roll? Okay. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Mar,
Yes.
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly,
Yes.
Chairman Wyckoff.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Item C of new business, capital improvement plan.
Okay. Each fiscal year, the city is required by Florida statutes and by its own comprehensive plan to amend its 5-year capital improvement plan and update the capital improvement element of the comprehensive plan. So the Planning Commission is required to review and make recommendations regarding the CIP and then have a public hearing to update the capital improvements elements. The portion of the CIP that are to be reviewed are those facility improvements of over $100,000 or more that affects levels of service standards adopted in the comprehensive plan.
Okay. Any public comment on this particular item of new business, capital improvement plan? Okay, seeing none, public comments will be closed. Planning Commission members? What say you?
On fiscal year 2022, so all these are in the current budget? Or I guess it's not a budget, it's just a plan. Is that
These were all approved as the capital improvement projects lived through BOC. So it's just bringing these projects to you to review. And we have to do this every fiscal year, every year.
Okay, there's not a whole lot of, other than the budget numbers, there's not a whole lot of detail to go through any of the specific projects. I would think these have all been reviewed for a number of years for these amounts to be here.
That is
Um,
correct.
And they're all in high demand, I'm sure.
Yes.
So I don't have any comment other than. Do we have a motion tonight on these?
The motion would be to approve the capital improvement plan, right?
That is correct.
Any other questions about items on the capital improvement plan?
Is that figure enough in today's, because this was 5 years, this is 5 years ago, and you're bringing it up now, and things have doubled and tripled. Is that enough money?
This is what was approved in October for BOC. So this is what was approved with BOC, the capital improvement projects that are over 100,000.
Are there any details on the Golf Boulevard improvements?
I do not have any details on these projects.
Okay.
If you would like some details, we could table and we could get further information from finance department on these. Unfortunately, this is all I have.
Are these in a comprehensive plan somewhere to be able to just view on our own?
It's in the capital improvement element of the comprehensive plan, which we have to update every year.
So it appears that in order to maintain continuity or compliance with the comprehensive plan, this is the capital improvement plan that goes along with that, right?
Right.
And then I'm assuming that should those numbers approved have a shortfall, there would, be a some version of a budgetary analysis done or a change that would be required to be voted on by the members of the Board of Commissioners.
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
So it looks like our position is just to say we're okay with, I don't know what, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure what our rationale would be for not approving that. Unless we're missing something. Yeah. Yeah, I won't disagree with them.
More. It's one thing, but 100.
Well,
That's what
well, by code, we have to review anything and approve the capital improvement plan. And in that plan is anything that's a cost factor of 100,000 or more. And that's by city code, right? That has to be done. So any planned expenditures in the capital improvement plan over that are looked at by us, basically. I don't know what our position is. I don't know if we were to disagree with one of these numbers, what do we do? I mean, and why would we disagree with one? That's what I'm not even sure. I feel a little bit lost. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure exactly what our position is in this. If we were to say, hey, I don't agree with something on here, then what? Right?
And I'm not really sure, to be honest. I could
Okay.
do more research and discuss with Linda. Linda's more familiar with this
Okay.
than me. So I just know that it's something that needs to be approved every year and goes into our comprehensive plan.
What I don't want to do is put us in a position to second guess what's already, the plan that's already been laid out. However, if we're to approve this, I'm not sure exactly how much more information we should have gotten, if there is supposed to be any more. I don't know, and I apologize for not knowing that. I probably should know that, but I don't. You know, I don't know how much we should have been fed to understand the numbers that are here, to rather than to say, oh yeah, they told us here's our capital improvement plan, go. I don't know exactly with clarity what our position is and how
we can
far we're
always-
supposed to dive into
yeah.
these.
We can always table the item.
Is that going to impinge on progress that needs to be made on any of the further Board of Commissioners meetings or anything like that?
No, and this is just something that needs to be approved and it's already a little late. So.
I mean,
That's about it.
if I might, it's not approving any of these projects. It's just,
No.
It's just saying we see what you've laid
we've
out.
seen it
and-
and we don't, there's nothing jumping out.
Yeah, I mean, going through the numbers, I don't know exactly what every one of these things is for, but I don't feel like it's also my position to make the call on whether they're right or wrong. You know,
Right.
I think it's just, it's a matter of typical governmental activity to have this public hearing so that this information gets disseminated to the public. And if they have a problem with it, it gets brought to us in our public comment section for us to consider. So having said all the things I said, I don't know what our position is here, but I don't want to also overstep our position. And if we're just supposed to give a cursory review and don't see anything glaring, I don't see the reason not to approve it. Right? And I think, to Mr. Connolly's concern, if any of these budgetary numbers were to change, then that's going to have to happen within that fiscal period during which
Absolutely.
those things change, and it'll have to be addressed at that time. Because obviously, you know, the cost of plywood tripled or whatever, and we can't tell if that's going to go up or down between now and 2025. Right, right.
Mm.
And I'm sure there's some forecasting in that, I would hope. And
This
that's why I don't think
review-
it's our position to do what the
Yeah.
city, in the budgetary process, it's not up for us to second guess that, I don't believe.
And this is every year that it's reviewed again, and it's supposed to come through planning commission.
I remember doing it last year and I don't remember all the details of it, I'm sorry to say. I do remember that we did see it and we did approve it. I just don't remember the entire process that we went through. So anyway, I'm happy to accept a motion to approve, disapprove, table, whatever you guys are up for. Absolutely, yes, sir.
Is there money, in other words, if somebody does a capital improvement and falls short, is there additional monies put into a kitty to advance the person the additional monies?
That would be better answered by finance. And that could be something that we do, is bring someone from finance here to discuss these projects in further detail, if that's what you would like to do.
Well,
Because they could answer those questions better.
Yeah, again, I don't know that it's our position to get into the
Right.
budgetary process of each one of these projects. I think it's just this is almost like a rudimentary governmental function that says this has to be broadcast, and should a citizen have a concern, then it gets brought up. And they're seeing none, I don't raise a concern myself, to be honest with you. But that's up to my planning commission.
I would
members.
agree. I would agree. I would agree.
Might as well, sure.
Okay, basically to explain something here, it's just kind of a paperwork trail, because on the
Agreed.
road projects, they have a set time in terms of what amounts are going to be set forth for each budget and each project. And therefore, I mean, you know, like I say, the Crystal Island project was on the books for 8 years, I think. And they had a certain amount of money, but then when it finally got bid, it was like way over budget. But it's just keeping things, paperwork trails of it's on the books and it can be brought up as a issue if somebody has an issue as far as like, okay, so we want to do this project first, this project second, this one third. But budgetary things, it might be matter number 3 gets done first, or some issues could happen. But it's a paper trail keeping things in order as to what the city is going to be doing on the big plan.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. We went out of order, but it's my prerogative. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay, anyone got a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the CIP 2022 capital improvement plan as presented.
All right, anyone with a second?
Second.
Thank you, John. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, let's call the roll, please.
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Mar,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly,
Yes,
Chairman Wyckoff.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, that ends our new business department. Any administrative, any old business that we didn't know about? Okay. Administrative presentation? Do we have one?
No.
Yay. Okay, not that I don't like having your presentations, they're always entertaining, but thank you. Any discussion from the members of the planning commission? Anything you'd like to bring up?
One last item. Should we reserve a time at the end of each meeting so that if there's something that one of the members, commissioners would like to place on the agenda for next meeting, that we could bring it up and either decide on it or get it on the agenda so that, we have a month to think about whatever was brought up,
Mhm.
the other commissioners do.
I think that's exactly what this little section is about, the planning commission
Okay,
discussion. If
well-
you have an issue that you want brought forward, we talk about it with our delightful city staff here, and we can ask them to
Place
look
it on
into
the
that
agenda.
and bring that particular topic up and maybe place it on the agenda so that it's properly noticed and all that for the next meeting, right? So that's precisely what number 8 is for. So is there anything burning that you want to have brought up? Okay. Next meeting is going to be Monday, March the 7th. I know that I have a conflict. I will be out of town on that day. So as long as someone else is here to talk into that thing and enough people are here, we'll be good. But just want to let you know, I won't be able to make that meeting. Okay. And anything else from anyone? We'll be adjourning this meeting. Thank you.